Welcome back. Recently, some widows with placards of different inscriptions protested in front of the National Assembly over what they described as stigmatization against them due to some cultural practices. And now we've been joined by Professor Barika Saro Lanka. He is the founder of Mighty One Foundation, and together we shall be taking a look at this particular issue. Thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, you had the news. Some widows with placards were protesting in front of the National Assembly during the week. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is the step in the right direction?
Honestly speaking, for the situation to deteriorate to this extent that widows have to protest before they are given attention is unacceptable. It shouldn't be the case at all, where there is respect for human rights, equity, and justice. Because widows are themselves creatures of God. We are one, the same creature, and we operate in the same environment and the same market. They are human beings. There should not be any class segregation. And so, for the extent to get to the point that widows have to go to the National Assembly with different inscription on placards to protest about their segregation, stigmatization, and all that is quite unacceptable.
But do you think this will yield any fruit? Because I'm very sure it's no news to those in the National Assembly of these issues that the widows have been facing. But so now protesting in front of the National Assembly, do you think it will yield fruit?
No, it's a step in the right direction, because the widows have now made it clear that they are being maltreated in the society. And then for that to be done at the front of the National Assembly is something that is encouraging.
Okay.
And so, because it should be an embarrassment to the National Assembly that they didn't act in such a way that widows have to come there to protest. They are vulnerable citizens. That does not mean that their rights should be denied.
Okay, because if we're talking about law or passing it into bill, we remember that on May 25th of May 2015,
yes.
President Goodluck Jonathan signed into law the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Bill.
Yes.
And that bill states that it's against female circumcision or gender mutilation, forceful ejection from home, or harmful widow practices. Widowhood practices, it prohibits abandonment of spouse, children, and other dependents without sustenance, battery, and other harmful traditional practices.
Yes.
But it's a law. But then it's not being implemented. Now, I don't know if we blame the National Assembly for that, or who do we blame for this? Because it's not like there's no law. There is this law, the VAP law, but it's not being implemented. So going back to the National Assembly, do you think that's going to solve anything? Or because I want to believe that this actually starts with all of us.
Yes, it's a wake-up call for the National Assembly to rise to their responsibilities, because they were the ones that enacted the law against violence against women prohibition. And now, for some years now, it has not been given any thoughtful consideration and implementation. So for those for which the law should protect to come back to the National Assembly to protest, it's an indictment on the National Assembly. They've not done what they are supposed to do.
All right.
And the government on its part too have a role to play. The government too have not done what it's supposed to do. But because it's an act of legislation, that's the right point of call for reawakening of consciousness towards their dilemma.
Because we always want to go back to the government. Once an issue is brought up.
And that is why our NGO, the Mighty One Empowerment Foundation, always insists that it is ripe. The time is ripe for the establishment of the National Widowhood Trust Fund.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Because that is an agency that ought to have implemented this kind of act that has been passed into law.
We'll get to that, because what I was going to say is every single time people always fall back to the government. When you ask why is this happening, everybody always has a reason why the government should have done it better. But then the government are not the ones stigmatizing the widow. They are not the ones carrying out these harmful traditional practices. So this always just begins with us, with everybody, with individuals. But before we get to that, now they made mention of the issue of stigmatization. Are there any stories that you can relate personally to? Because that's what your foundation does. Are there any story that you can relate personally to? And how do you think that was handled in... I want to take us through it so that anybody that's watching now can actually relate. Okay, if I'm having this issue, this is how I should go about it.
Okay, now coming to the issue of stigmatization of widows, we have a few widows that have come to our foundation and NGO to lay complaints about denial of rights, about ejection, forceful ejection from their husband houses, which we took up and got those issues addressed. But there are very few. But in the larger society, there are those widows that may not know us or may not be part of the National Widowhood of the National Association of Nigerian Widows, which we mentor. So that means there is need for an agency that will implement all these acts, the provisions of these acts, so that widows in Nigeria and other vulnerable women population can have a better deal. They can have a true sense of belonging that, yes, they are part of the society, which they are indeed.
But just having a sense of belonging is not going to fix everything.
If we have an agency in place, like the National Widow Trust Fund implemented, that will be an agency that will ensure that the provisions of that act are properly implemented.
Okay. So you are hoping that an agency is going to arise.
Yes, we are canvassing for the establishment of that agency.
We have the Widowhood Support Group. The Widowhood Support Network. That should serve as something. It should serve as something.
No, it's an NGO. It's an NGO run by Jerome Mario Utomi.
Okay.
Seja. Her NGO is called Seja. She works with Seja as an NGO. They are canvassing too. They are canvassing that, like you have the National Association of Nigerian Widows. That's how Seja is. So they are canvassing, but we need a government agency to be established to take care of this category of neglected, persecuted, and abandoned people. Okay. The widows and other categories of maybe single mothers too, and other categories of less privileged women. That will, an agency that will articulate their plans, bring in the vague act that has been enacted into law, or that was enacted into law by the government of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. All right.
Now, your NGO is based here in Abuja.
Yes.
Are there some instances or some particular stories that, or cultures or traditions that you can relate to the people or around or within the FCT?
We have always canvassed for the shedding of primitive, archaic, crude, and barbaric cultural factors, measures that still exist in many localities. Before now, there was a time when twins were being wasted. Before Mary Celeste came with the campaign and stopped that. Several other unbearable and unthinkable acts that have been exercised against women. Like the Queen Amina of Zaria, she rose and fought about it. Late Chief Margaret Ekpo, she rose and fought against it. And so many other things. Even Yesufu, Aisha Yesufu, she is on that trail. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, there are some prominent women activists that are on that train. And our NGO has been on that track too, to ensure that people's rights are respected, not because they are less privileged on any grounds.
Okay, because I was asking if there's any place or any regions, particularly in the FCT or in Abuja, where you can make mention that the traditions or what is practiced in these areas are not
like Abaji, Kwali, Kuje. There are certain factors, certain cultural elements that are implemented that does not promote the growth and development of women.
Like which of them?
Okay, like denial of female rights, inheritance right. There's this in these area councils, some of the rural communities. Yes. Which should not be so, because if a parent has given birth to male and female children, and there is the estate to be shared, because they are women, that should not make any family to deny them or any group to deny them. It's wrong. It's unacceptable. Before God is wrong. Before the law is wrong. And before the society is also wrong.
But I don't think they are the first to practice that. And some people always have a reason as to why they do that. I think it's something that relates to
it has to
you being a woman and having to marry out of the family.
No. The orientation must be intensified.
Okay.
So that people will start shedding these primitive cultural elements in implementation of the whatever. So nobody is bound by any kind of law or whatever to practice what their ancestors practiced in the past. To say, okay, this must be like this. Like there are some rural communities within the FCT too, where if a woman loses the husband, there's no problem. But if the woman, now a widow, loses a husband, she is subjected to all kind of unbearable and primitive practices and traditions. That should not be the case. We are in a modern era, and anything that does not please God should not be allowed to exist in the society. Okay,
because there's a story here, but this is not in the FCT. It happened in Anambra State, where a young woman was paraded naked after the death of her husband.
Yes.
Now, aside the fact that the government might not be following up to the rules or to the laws that they have enacted, I feel like we, the citizens, have a role to play in all of this. Like you made mention, we're in the modern era, but then some people stood there with their cameras taking videos. Nobody said anything. So it's not just about the government. I feel like this is more like down to the grassroots. It's a matter of reawakening of the consciousness of the people.
Yes.
Because this happens, people come out, they make videos and they post it on social media, they feel it's okay. So even if the government should pass a law, it's still going to be difficult to make sure that this law is followed to the latter, because some people still believe that it's okay. Not just some people, lots of people, especially in the rural communities, believe that it's okay. We have practiced this for a very long time, and it has lived with us, it has worked for us. So this might not actually work, or it might not be feasible. It might not gain as much ground as it should in the nearest future. That's where I see it from. I don't know if you have a different opinion.
Yes. What we can do to tame that kind of mentality is for NGOs to collaborate with CBOs, community-based organizations, and raise awareness on this, that people have rights that must be respected, no matter where they live. And then if we have religious organizations coming in to collaborate, FBOs, faith-based organizations, then the awareness will grow to the extent that people will know that you are not supposed to snap somebody naked and then post it.
But I don't know.
People will be, that awareness will be
I'm sure that watching this now, lots of people are like, why? Because this is not.
It's wrong. It's fundamental.
Story.
It's a major fundamental human rights abuse.
Then I'm very sure now we are going to have to agree on something. Social media regulation, because aside this particular story, there are many instances where people just people just take unaware pictures or videos of other people, and then it's circulating on social media. Nobody gets punished for that. Nobody accounts for that. It's just you have made a story, but it's not your story. You just take unconscious videos of other people, you post it on social media, and nothing happens. So what I'm saying is, for this particular law, the VAP law or some other laws that we're talking about, that we hope that the National Assembly will pass, there should be other laws attached to it. Because, like I always say, sometimes the problem we have in Nigeria are changed. They are like, education is connected to insecurity, and then there's power, there's lack of employment. Like, it's all changed. So if we're having this as a law, because I saw on social media, on one of the social media platforms recently, a tradition somewhere in eastern Nigeria, in Enugu State particularly, being practiced, and somebody posted it on social media. They feel it's okay. Maybe some people feel like it's a sort of awareness, or you just want to create content. So for this to happen, there should be some kind of social media regulation, which I don't know if it's going to be possible here in Nigeria.
Yes, the social media is an aspect of technology that is devised to grow the society. But unfortunately, it is being severely abused majorly through ignorance. Okay. And then maybe through vindictiveness, and then other factors associated with bad taste. And so there is need for this regulation so that people's rights are respected, the decency that the society should enjoy is made available and is allowed to strive. And so the National Assembly need to look in that area to see how to regulate the practice, the use of the social media. It should be used positively to grow the society, not to use to create social tension, abuse, and all that malignment of people. That is really unfair.
Okay.
The time is right for the National Assembly to look at something in that direction that will help the society to enjoy some decorum and decency.
Okay. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the legal backing of or the legality of some of these actions. Or yes, it's obviously illegal, but how can legal actions be put in place? Now, aside NGOs, because some people might not have access or contacts to the NGOs, but then going to court or taking court orders, because here in Nigeria, yes, I know that until it becomes a law, but then until it becomes a law, what do we do? How do we sort these issues out? How do we make it right? Because we're waiting for the national, it's going to pass regions, and before it gets to that, a lot of things can go wrong from now till then. How do we make it right? Let's say I have an issue and I don't have access to the NGO. I take it to court. How do I present my case so that it's understandable? Because lots of people don't even understand what this women go through. When you bring up a complaint and you say your husband's family took away your children because your husband is late, then people feel like they belong to the family too. Anybody can take the child. So what are the ways which these women can present their cases while we wait for the National Assembly to pass another law?
Now, outside making approach to NGOs for assistance, we have the National Human Rights Commission, we have the Legal Aid Council that are available. There are government agencies that are available to assist people whose rights have been abused. And then for consumer rights, we have the FCPPC that is there too, and then some other agencies of government. So, but now people should begin to recuse and recall that they are human beings and they are not supposed to do what they feel will hurt them if it is done to them to other people. People should have conscience and respect for the rights of others. So now there should be more collaboration with NGOs to spread this good news of maybe a national campaign in collaboration with different agencies and partners to make people see that you don't need to hurt other people. You don't need to create problem or to create pain and agony to other people by maybe an act of ignorance or intentional act, and then you feel you can go scot-free. So I think this collaboration can come between the National, the Legal Aid Council and the National Human Rights Commission. So
in situations where women come to your NGO with issues like this,
yes,
how do you take it up?
What we'll do is we get the complaint documented, and then we reach out to the offending party, so to say, to see what was the problem, and we try and resolve it. So if it is about forceful removal of children from the wife, we now know why that was done, who is in the best position to handle the children. We put the age brackets of the children into consideration. If they are still very minor, that they cannot stay without their mother, we look at it. If it's the one that the diseased family will, the diseased husband's family will handle, be able to take care of properly, we consider that, depending on the gender of the child too. That's another factor. And so many other things we put into consideration, and we see how we resolve and intervene to ensure that the proper thing is done without resort to the court. That is a kind of alternative dispute resolution method. And in the case where it gets to the part where you take it to court? If it's taken to court, we assist them with legal support to be able to get justice. If the other party goes to court, we assist them with legal support.
Okay. All right. I think with that, we have to draw the curtain here. It's been amazing talking to you on this particular issue, and I wish lots of people who are watching this would learn from this. I don't think, and I know it's not right to stigmatize that widow in your village, that widow's beside you. It's so wrong. She's a person, like he made mention. She's a person like you and I, and this tragedy could be any one of us. Thank you so much for watching the Abuja File today. Till I come your way next time, I am Sandra Agu.